Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome at our live stream event, The Hum on TikTok. My name is Lillian Stolp and I am organizing The Hum together with Margarita Osipian and Marco Wessel. They're also sitting behind their computers right now, making sure that this live stream runs smooth. I will quickly introduce them to you. This is Margarita. Hi. Margarita is hosting our chat tonight. Via the chat, you can ask questions to the speakers, but you can also use it to talk to other visitors or to Margarita. And this is Marco. Hi, Marco. Hey. Marcus is our technician, so he takes care of the videos that you see right now in your stream. The Hum is a platform for internet cultures based in Amsterdam. We organize events, publish editorial content, and give workshops to reflect on what's happening on the internet and to better understand the complex structures behind it. Besides fast-paced events where we have 8 speakers, we also organize focus events like this, where we delve a bit deeper into certain topics. This year we've had 3 other focus events. One was about deepfakes, one about facial recognition, and one about the power of Facebook. And tonight we're going to explore TikTok together with you. In preparation of these events, we do research, and we also publish this research on our website in online research dossiers. We also invite writers and artists for contributions. And last week, we've published our dossier on TikTok. For that, we've invited researcher Josephine Utel to write an article about TikTok and the 2020 US elections, where she did research on. Hamster TikToker Marieke Kuiper shared her 10 favorite TikTok niches with us. Artist Jeff van Beers made a great video collage of some musical memes on TikTok, and I wrote an article about the TikTok algorithm. And the dossier will learn you about the meaning of snowflakes on TikTok and let you discover the world of frog talk. So have a look. Margarita will now share a link of the dossier in the chat, so you can put it on your reading link list for after this event. Yeah, when you think about TikTok just as a new app for making and sharing short videos for young people, you're wrong. It's actually the fastest growing social media network ever. Only 3 years after its launch outside China, it has become a serious competitor of American big tech companies such as Facebook, YouTube, and Snapchat. Companies that already are embedded in the Western tech market for years and have a huge amount of following. This is especially interesting in the light of the antitrust lawsuit in the US last summer that is accusing companies like Facebook of suppressing its competition through monopolistic business practices. It's true that Facebook is so dominant and affluent that it can easily buy out or copy competitors. In fact, that's what they do. But TikTok shows us that technology develops fast and the tide can turn also easily. Facebook was too late seeing TikTok as a serious competitor, so now they are copying them. Recently, they pushed a TikTok clone embedded in Instagram called Reels, and this week they rolled out another clone, Collab. So far, this hasn't been successful, I think. It also shows because in the US, TikTok already has surpassed Instagram as the teenager's second favorite social app. So, and part of the success of TikTok can be attributed to its machine learning recommendation algorithm. And that can find its roots to the Chinese background of the app. And that is actually something that we find very interesting. TikTok is the first Chinese app that is used worldwide. So what does the competition from China's tech companies mean for the apps that we use, the recommendations that we receive, and the kinds of visual content that we create and share? Are Trump's security concerns, that was a reason for him to ban the app in the US, or willing to ban, are these well-founded? These are some of the questions that we're going to explore tonight, and we've invited 3 amazing speakers. We start with a presentation about the Chinese background of TikTok, followed by a presentation about mobile security and sharing data. And the last talk explores the societal impact of TikTok. After every 15-minute talk, there's time for questions, so feel free to ask them via the chat. And after the 3 talks, we will have a panel discussion. And we conclude the event with a more informal bar talk. Before the pandemic, we only organized physical events, and now we obviously do only online events. But we really like organizing online events. And we've been experimenting with it a lot over the last past months. But one thing that we really miss is seeing you, our viewers, and meeting you, and together with the speakers have a more informal chat at the bar. So tonight we try to make this interaction possible for you on a new platform that we've been exploring. So prepare yourself for a little experiment at the end of the event. Okay. That's enough for now. Let's start with the program. There are not so many books published about TikTok yet. As you can see on my bookmarks, I learned a lot from this book, The Attention Factory by Matthew Brennan. As a writer and speaker engrossed in the Chinese internet, Matthew knows everything about the history of TikTok, and I'm very happy to have him in our program tonight. So welcome, Matthew.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, great to have you here. I forgot to tell that tonight we introduce all the speakers by showing their favorite TikTok video. So yeah, let's watch your favorite video first.
Number 4, number 3, number 2, number 1.
I need a bit of sound.
Yeah.
The sound's pretty heavy on that one.
But can you describe the sound a bit?
Oh, just the soundtrack, it's typical, like very high energy.
It was a music song played, or an interesting fact actually is that this is from the Chinese version of TikTok, right?
Yeah, sure. That's a video on Douyin, and it's of a training school for online celebrities. So
yeah, great. Why is it your favorite one?
It's just a very strong visual. You could imagine that being in a film, right?
Yeah, indeed.
But it's real. It's not fake at all. Absolutely, there's programs like that in China to help people. Normal average people do live stream e-commerce and learn how to host those sessions well. And there's lots of tricks and things to learn.
So cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hear more about your Chinese perspective on TikTok, and also to hear more about your knowledge about the Chinese internet. So yeah, let's start with your presentation.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Got 15 minutes here. Let me just put this a little bit aside. So I just want to whiz through, I guess, some background on the Chinese parent company of TikTok. And in this 15 minutes, a lot of this stuff is just taken from my book, Attention Factory. It's very small, snippets. I'm just going to whiz through some stuff, really, some basics about the company, some things you might not know. And talk about they're really a very exciting company, and one of the sort of biggest internet giants in China now. So when we talk about ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, I like this quote right from the head of the ByteDance AI Labs. Is that he said, "We've built the largest machine learning platform for content, and that's our weapon." It's kind of true. The core of the company is it's a technology-based company, and their advantage is that they've had this content recommendation system, this recommendation engine that is really been powering the company forward and been at the core of what's made them competitive, not just for TikTok, but for all of their flagship products actually. And but the company's it's relatively young. It's 8 years old. So they've actually been growing very fast during that time. And so we can break this down into sort of 3 stages of the company. TikTok's just the last stage where they've sort of gone international. But before that, this was already a very large company, and ByteDance was, the original version of TikTok in the middle there, which is Douyin, was very successful before TikTok began. And before that, there was an app called Toutiao, which is a household name in China, but not really very well known in the West. And that's a news feed that aggregates articles and content. You can think of it a little bit like the Facebook news feed on your phone without any friends. That's the easiest way to describe it. There's no social network. It's just simply content, mostly articles, but also videos. But it's all sort of content, and the recommendation is what makes that experience accessible and powerful and addictive to some degree, in the same way that TikTok is. But yeah, there's three stages to this company quite clearly, and TikTok is really the breakout hit globally, and they've been able to achieve that since 2018, really. The structure of the company is also really interesting, and we dive into that in the book and talk about it, because it's not structured similar to other Chinese internet giants. There's sort of 3 departments that it's broken down by technology, user growth, and commercialization. So each app does have its own team, but essentially there's what they call a big middle platform, where they share technology. So the recommendation that you see in TikTok is a technology that's built by an internal team and shared across many of their apps. It evolves this way in order to avoid duplication of effort, and it means that they can essentially churn out new apps all the time. They're like a factory production line of apps in China, and that's actually what people call them. They're sometimes called an app factory because they just have so many different internet services running. But this system that they have of their organization is been very successful for them. To give you some idea of how many apps they actually have, this is just a sort of summary here of the sort of China-based properties that they have. Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, is just one of so many, and most of them are video. A lot of them are video-based and content-based because that plays to their strengths in recommendation. But also they've gone heavily into producing education apps, into trying to do social applications. They actually haven't been very successful in those, but anyway, they've tried enterprise productivity. They have an app called Lark, which they've put a lot of effort into. There's a team of a few hundred people working on that. And games as well. They're actually moved into games quite heavily in the last 18 months. So there's lots of different things going on in this company, and it's like a typical Chinese internet conglomerate. They're very complex these days, and it's a bit difficult to actually work out, keep track of all the things they're doing. Essentially, what they operate internationally is much easier to keep tabs on. The management, if you go on their website, you're going to see this today, and it makes it look like, okay, this is obviously Zheng Yimin is the founder. Everybody knows that. There's no co-founders, just one founder, Zheng Yimin. But this is their board of directors. It looks, these are the important people in the company. Actually, they're not. The real people who are important in this company are all Chinese. They're all called Zheng. They've all got the same surname, although they're not related, which is Zheng Yimin, Zheng Lidong, and Zheng Nan. And Lidong, the middle one, is we term the ad king. He is term of commercialization. ByteDance very good at making money from their attention, and he's the main guy. He used to be a journalist, actually, so from the traditional media industry. And then Zheng Nan on the right, on my right there, maybe your left, I'm not sure, is the product queen of the company. She is in charge of all of the China products now, and she was the one in charge of Douyin, the original version of TikTok, and brought that product from 0 to 1 through its critical stage. So if we, she's pretty important in the terms of history of TikTok. You can see TikTok today is what it is, in large part due to her. In terms of number of people that this company has, 100,000, well, it's 100,000 already, I think, as of December this year. So that puts them up. They have more. They actually employ more people than Tencent or Facebook now. A lot of those are outside China as well. Having said that, about 20 or 30%, something in that region of people are doing content moderation. So it's not all engineers. Although engineers do take a sizable chunk of the workforce. In terms of revenue, estimates for this year is about 25 billion US dollars. Those just estimates. It's not a publicly listed company. It's a private company. We do get conflicting reports and rumors still around whether this stuff is off. But certainly the broad general trend is pretty clear, where this company is doing quite well basically. What's driving that is mostly an advertisement business, mostly similar to Facebook. Actually, got a lot of similarities. And if we look in the China market with this data, you can just see in terms of the online digital media market spend, it's grown from like 2% through to 18% in space of about 4 or 5 years, and become the number 2 player in online advertisement, essentially after Alibaba. Quite spectacular growth there. It's not often you see that. And what's driving this is the shift in attention that we've seen in the China market, where from this data is just from 2017 to 2018, it grew by just 6% in that year. This was the breakout 12 months for Douyin. Big shift in attention towards ByteDance, and that's continued actually over the next 2 years. This data is in Chinese, obviously, but the red section is ByteDance. So from 2019 June to 2020 June, it's still growing. It's reached up to 15% of all time on mobile is spent in ByteDance products, and predominantly Douyin. So that's again quite unimaginable a few years ago, and I don't see any reason why this won't happen in Western markets as well. So where we are with TikTok in Europe is something similar to where China was 18 months ago. So it would be somewhere in the middle of this transition. So that's one of the interesting things here, is that China really does offer a window into the future of TikTok in other markets, because it's 18 months ahead basically, and we've seen that the user behavior of the of TikTok users and Douyin users is actually pretty similar, and the content it's actually got a lot of parallels as well. So I'm quite positive that we're still at the early days of TikTok usage in Europe, and this still has quite a long way to go. And China, where we are in China today, it's got 600 million daily active users, and all sections of society are not just using, but also creating videos on there as well. This is just some screenshots here of what the Chinese version looks like. It's got a lot more features and functionality, but a lot of these are actually coming to TikTok, including things like the adverts are in most markets now. Live stream is also in many markets. E-commerce, they're going to link up with Shopify to do that. Maybe Walmart, we'll have to see. The gaming center was basically China only at the moment, but we may see that in other markets. One of the implications of the rise of this company would be that it may offer an alternative to the Facebook and Google duopoly of advertising. That we, for many years, marketers and regulators have complained that online advertising is essentially a duopoly. The good news is, I guess, that ByteDance will probably offer an alternative, a third alternative, eventually to those two companies. And as we alluded to earlier, the octopus model, this company, the cash cow is TikTok, but we can expect ByteDance to offer many more services in the future in Europe eventually, but that may take 2 to 3 years, I think, to really start to happen. I don't think we've got time for these, so I'll probably have to stop there. But okay, I'll stop there. I think I've hit my time, so maybe some time for questions if you want more. Of course, the book is book is there. I can't actually see you guys, so I'm going to switch back. Okay, now I can see you. Is it okay to? Was that okay?
Yes, of course. Yeah, you have a bit more time, but we can also fill it up with questions.
I thought I was over time, to be honest.
No, it's perfect.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, super
questions is more interesting.
Yeah, it's super interesting, and I'm very curious how TikTok will develop here in the West as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I come to that later. But the first thing I want to ask you is, what is the biggest difference between TikTok and Douyin, like the Chinese version of TikTok, content-wise? Is there a difference?
Oh, content-wise, yeah. I think the difference in content reflects the difference in society and the difference in online, general online behaviors. In China, the Chinese version Douyin tends to be more business driven, and so there's a lot more e-commerce that happens on there, but that's also partially due to it just starting earlier. And the Chinese market tends to move faster, so it's unsurprising. But even so, I think there's just more business related content, and whereas in TikTok you see a lot more actually creative content that people use TikTok. Oh, number one, it's a global platform, so you would expect that to a certain degree. There's just many more different cultures and different societies using it, so you would expect more variety. But even so, I think that there's more creative content on TikTok. But in businesses, in particular in China, have really embraced Douyin, and so you see a lot of sort of business-focused content on there, more serious content.
And I think they also have a special feature that makes it easier to sell your products via Douyin, right?
Yeah, sure. I think that's coming to TikTok. I don't think that's a difference. I think it's just they're just ahead.
Yeah. We also got some audience questions. One is about the video that you shared before your presentation. Ben asks, what is the colloquial name of this meme? So is it part of a meme, the video that you showed?
It's not part of a meme, no. It's just a popular video.
Yeah. Just a registration of how these schools work.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's not that many schools, but there are schools, and it's just a training school that teaches people how to be a good host for live stream, not just on Douyin, but there's many Chinese platforms where you can live stream. Many actually.
Yeah.
And it's been a big hot topic in China for 2020 has been live stream e-commerce. So when something gets really hot like that, there'll be people selling shovels, right, for the gold rush.
Yeah.
And they're selling shovels.
Yeah. Hi asks, so what would be the most important thing ByteDance needs to add to TikTok to conquer the European and US market?
They've already conquered it, haven't they? I don't think it's for them to mess it up really right now. But it's.
Do you think that they worry about Facebook releasing these TikTok clones?
For sure, these companies always do worry about what the other competitors are doing. They tend to be quite paranoid about that stuff. Having said that, I mean, when I speak to the people I know, the TikTok product managers I know who've been there from the beginning, they're more worried about. They see YouTube as the competitor. It's not Facebook. YouTube's the real competitor of TikTok.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's also interesting that YouTube has they are so embedded in our market as well, and didn't manage to bring out to.
They have YouTube has something called YouTube Shorts, I think.
Okay, I didn't know that.
They've got a similar.
Okay.
It's definitely in there. I can see it in my version, but they haven't really pushed it that much. They've been quite conservative, it seems.
Yeah. Ben, maybe the same, asks, if possible, can you speak out the relationship, both structurally in terms of personal, but also in terms of tech, about the relations between ads or ad targeting in the recommendation algorithm? For example, how much of what the For You page does is about gathering info for ad targeting?
Without, I can speak to the basics. It's all based on tagging of the user, right? The user profile. So that tagging is used for better recommendation, but it's also used for ad targeting as well. So you're tagged based on your behavior, and that's used for both purposes. But inside the Douyin, data warehouse somewhere, there's your profile, and everything that you do is enriching that profile, and that's the core of what the information they have on you is and how they use that is based around that profile.
Yeah, and I think in your book you also write that based on the idea of your device, the app creates a shadow profile of you, right? So it's already learning from you by your viewing behavior. And
the onboarding experience for TikTok, as probably some of you have realized, is you don't need to register an account in order to start using the app. And so but they can still personalize the experience of TikTok without you registering, because they use a shadow ID profile based on the ID or the device ID. So this just makes a smooth onboarding process, because actually it's pretty. That's actually very common in China. Like, they worked out that's the way to do it. It's you want to show people value before you ask them to register, right? It kind of like, I've always found it weird that you have to register for services without actually trying them first. But
is that with more Chinese apps?
Sorry?
That is with more Chinese apps.
Yeah, it's quite common in China to do that. Yeah, not just Douyin.
Yeah. And a question I was wondering. So you told in your presentation that we are just like in the beginning of the growth of TikTok. There's a lot of more things to come. What would be some future directions that you see coming to TikTok?
I think the content in the ecosystem will mature. I think it's definitely still at an early stage, and will evolve considerably from where it is right now. And it will evolve more in a sort of YouTube-like direction, is if we could say broadly where it's probably going. And then what I mean by that is just the sort of diversity of content that you'll see on the platform will be more similar to YouTube over time, in that you'll just have every type of content, every brand will be on there, and you will find very serious content, very educational content, and not just a sort of fast-paced or like goofy comedy skits, or before it was known for sort of lip sync and dance, when it was coming out of the Musical.ly years. So we're going from that transition to where it could be a platform used by anyone, and when I say that, like a businessman would use it, like a middle-aged serious businessman could also find a lot of value in TikTok and watch educational serious content on there, and that not being strange is the future.
Last question from the audience. Doringer asks, can you please share how TikTok started? What were the first videos? What brought the popularity to the platform? So I think that's also content.
Yeah, well, the real story is in massive detail in the book, but to summarize, to the first TikTok videos, I mean, do you mean Douyin or TikTok? If you mean TikTok, then the first videos were probably in Japan. And but it launched in several Asian markets at the similar times, but Japan was actually one of probably the first, from what we can work out. It's actually they couldn't give us a clear answer. But it would be Asian markets, and most of it, the first TikTok videos were all just batch imported from Douyin, right? They just took all the Douyin content they had and threw it over into TikTok. The first Douyin videos were created by were mostly ripped from Musical.ly, to be honest. That's what they did with to kickstart that platform in China, was rip a bunch of content from Musical.ly, and then they had a seed group of creators, about 20 young people who were the first creators of Douyin, who they selected from other platforms, and they were creating just lip sync and dance. It was just like Musical.ly content, that teens and preteens did.
And this group was from China. These content creators,
for Douyin, yeah.
Okay.
Most of them were. Some of them were overseas Chinese, actually, living in like Canada and places.
We got a few more questions, but we're gonna have to move on with the program, so I leave them for the panel discussion. Thank you very much for your talk, Matthew. And we'll see you in a bit.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. I'll be around.
Yeah. And we move over to a short break, so we can technically prepare ourselves for our next speaker. You don't have to leave your computer because we prepared some questions for you. But see you in a minute or two. Hey, welcome back. Now that most of our apps, tools, and platforms that we use are developed in the United States, but do we have to be more concerned that when our apps are developed in China? A little update on the attempt of the Trump administration to ban TikTok in the United States came this week when a second judge in the US actually blocked the attempt. So probably TikTok can stay operating in the United States, but still it opens a lot of interesting questions around what it means for us to use apps that are created within a highly controlled totalitarian regime. To better understand how it works with apps and sharing data on a global scale, we've invited Martina Lindorfer, professor at the Technical University in Wien, who is researching mobile security. Hi, Martina.
Hi.
Hi. Hey. Yeah, you also brought your favorite TikTok video that we're gonna watch now. It's a pity that... Oh. It's a bit ASMR for your eye, this video. Do you like cats or rainbows?
Both. Like I like I'm a huge cat person and I like cooking, and it was the little puff is like this, I think, Japanese cat who posts cooking videos and TikTok. It's really cute.
Nice, nice. Yeah, if you're ready for your presentation, I think we can just start.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to talk a little bit more about data apps are collecting in general, not specific to TikTok, but more from like an analysis perspective and why it's actually pretty hard to definitely figure out what your apps are doing. And big part of my research is we have this lab environment where we have a farm of different phones and try to automatically test as many apps as we can. And we usually call this monkey testing, because if you want to test like thousands of apps, you need some automated way to interact with them and like a monkey click randomly on the screen. And what we usually do is look at the interactions of an app with the internet and see, for example, it's an actual example where the app uploads a photo to a photo sharing site, but also sends along different device identifiers and also some information about where the user is from, so the server can then react accordingly. So that's our general testing framework. And we used this, for example, in the study like 2 years ago, where we specifically looked at apps that have on the one hand microphone access, on the other hand camera access, which right now is pretty much not every app, but with all these social media sharing platforms, it's a usual permission to have. But we wanted to see maybe how are these apps using those permissions, and are they potentially sharing the data that you provide, like photos or videos, in unexpected and also undisclosed ways. And one finding we had that ultimately turned out to fit into this topic of global apps was that there's these apps that allow you to add photo filters to your face. And personally, I'm pretty paranoid with what apps are doing, but I wouldn't have expected those apps don't actually do the filters on your phone, but they send your photos to a server somewhere else and then process them. And yeah, we found it kind of creepy. The thing is, nobody really focused on that. We also had another finding that blew up in the media where all around the world, we actually got a lot of press, because what we also found was that apps are pretty much recording your screen while you're interacting with them. So not, of course, not all of them, but so this is some kind of debugging service for developers, which developers not necessarily have bad intentions including this. So they're trying to figure out how users are interacting with the app and where are the heat maps where users are clicking and how you can make this more user-friendly. Well, this was creepy. The fact that apps were sharing photos of users with random servers actually didn't get much attention. One app we actually found during this our work was FaceApp, and we saw that this app was not processing the photos on the phone, but on a server. It got a lot of attention, I think, like a year after our study, when other researchers figured out, hey, the photos are actually going to a server in Russia. And in this case, of course, nobody can really know how the Russians are using those photos, but you're essentially taking portraits of yourself and uploading them to the server. The app has millions of users, so one could suspect that those photos can also be used to build a nice biometric database of pictures also to train machine learning algorithms for face detection and whatnot. The app is still available. So back then, they were pretty open that they were based in Russia. Now they changed their developer address to the United States. Which from a technical point of view doesn't necessarily mean that there's still not a connection to the US, to Russia. Another example we found that kind of fits today's audience was Artisto, where at a first glance, the developer is based in the Netherlands. And they also uploaded like photos to the server with device identifiers. The company is my.com. And if you look the company up, you see that it's actually a subsidiary of a Russian company. And also the data isn't processed in the Netherlands, but is actually going to Russia. And what's also strange about this app is when you look at the privacy policy, it's a privacy policy about games that has nothing to do with whatever this app is doing. Still, it's available in the Play Store. The next example, or the last example, was InstaBeauty. That's an app based in China that promises to beautify your face and remove all imperfections. They also have this nice terms of service where you, as with most other social media networks, grant them pretty much the license to all your photos and content you upload. But at least during our study of this app, we found that they're processing the data on Amazon cloud servers in the US. Unfortunately, not that securely, so they're using unencrypted traffic, but we didn't find any evidence that this data was going to China, which of course you can't necessarily know, who knows, but at least on a first glance, the data is staying in the US, where we based our experiments in. Now concerning TikTok, I first heard about TikTok from a security perspective when in April, some guy on Reddit posted his technical or his analysis on how evil TikTok basically was and how insecure. And so there wasn't much of technical content what TikTok actually does. The guy just mentioned that he looked at Facebook and other social media companies, and TikTok is worse, and it's essentially a data collection service thinly veiled as a social network, which to me basically is the definition of a social network, and also something that all other social networks do. So TikTok isn't necessarily worse when it comes to the data collection. I also looked a little bit about detailed analysis of the apps, what other researchers found, and like, to be honest, any other app, especially other young apps, it has or had some kind of security vulnerabilities in terms of code quality, misuse of cryptography, the use of encrypted network connection still is somewhat tricky for apps sometimes. And there was an interesting proof of concept attacks from a security company called Checkpoint that showed what the security vulnerabilities actually could lead to in practice. And they demonstrated some attacks that they coordinated with TikTok with and that are hopefully fixed, but ultimately they would have allowed someone to take over your account and delete videos, make videos public that were private, and also manipulate the videos in transit. So while you're clicking in your app on a video you want to see, these types of attacks could allow someone in the coffee shop next to you or like at your mobile internet provider to manipulate those videos and send you some different content. TikTok also has or used to have some questionable practices when it comes to privacy. So their network security configuration isn't that secure. They're also, from a privacy perspective, use persistent device identifiers that are discouraged by Google or Apple side since 5 years. So those are the MAC address and the IMEI. Those are bound to your phone or your SIM card, and they'll stay the same until you pretty much change your phone or get a new phone number. And there's a number of other device identifiers they could use that users could actually reset if they want to start with a new profile. Another thing was that got some attention was that iOS, the newest version, introduced a feature that lets users know when an app copies or has a look at the clipboard, like the space where you copy and paste your data. And yeah, TikTok was actually using this, and they stopped after it got public. Other things, they shared location with some advertisers and also sent information with this advertiser on Facebook. They shared information with Chinese companies, and they heavily protected the app against any code analysis, which can be legitimate, but also could be seen as a sign that they want to hide something. The good news is that they stopped some of this behavior. And if you look at an analysis of how many trackers they included this year compared to a year ago, they actually cut them in half. So a year ago, they had 14 trackers embedded. Now they only have 7. And the ones they removed are some Facebook analytics stuff, some Google Crash reporting that might be actually migrated in some other Google service, and 3 Chinese advertisement libraries, 2 of which, the first one and the last one, belong to Alibaba, and were pretty much the traffic other researchers saw going to China. The library they still have is an US library, that's AppsFlyer, where the question is how much better this is than any other Chinese advertising library, because this is like a marketing graph from them where they show the complexity of this ad targeting networks, and they actually boast that they have over 4,000 partners globally. So you have to ask the data they are getting from TikTok, where does this data then go? Since I'm out of time, I'm kind of skipping over this. So in terms of permissions, TikTok is not much worse or better than other social media apps. Apple just now started doing this privacy nutritional labels on the website where there's a difference, like what you could compare against the Stop Smash. This is this German alternative that just, I think this week got sold to Reddit. So if you compare the top and the bottom, it seems TikTok is collecting more data than would be necessary. But again, this is information the companies provide. It's not verified by Apple, and you have to take it at the face value. The same with any privacy policies you get from those companies. So to summarize a bit, in my analysis, we typically automatically run apps in a controlled environment and judge the privacy risks by first looking at which kind of information is shared. Is it encrypted in transport, and then where is it going? And this last part is especially complex since this is not only, first of all, we always need to distinguish, is it the first party like TikTok or is it an advertiser? Then as I summarize on this slide, the data isn't necessarily staying at this first destination it's going to. There's this whole network of data brokers that then sell your data to other analytics companies. Also, companies get sold, like Dubsmash now got bought by Reddit, and essentially with it all the users and their data. It also doesn't really matter where on a technical level a server is located. It matters where the company that's ultimately controlling this data is located. And there's many hops in between for performance reasons, servers for load balancing, where the first destination might be a server in the US or Europe, and then that serves requests if it can, but also forwards data to other locations. And the last thing that's really tricky for us as researchers is that apps are usually highly targeted towards the user base and where those users are. And there's a ton of different ways an app can fingerprint if a user is in China and they should perform content moderation they see fit for China, or whether a user is in Europe. So as a researcher, when you're looking at the app in Europe or the US, you don't necessarily get the full picture. And the easiest ways for apps to distinguish between audiences, of course, is whether you download the international version or the Chinese one. Then also there's different versions in different app stores. Some phones might come pre-installed with some apps. And of course, if you create an account, you also give the app some kind of indication in which country you're located. But then there's also a lot of invisible signals that the app can collect. That's not only the easiest one, the GPS location. It's your IP address, your mobile network operator, your phone number. The SIM card has your country information stored. The apps often have access to your contacts. They know your language settings, see your browsing history, what kind of other apps you have installed, the payment information you give them. There's so many data points they can collect and fingerprint if a user is from a specific country. So there's really not a lot of international studies or studies into how apps behave for certain groups of users or in certain regions. I can only briefly mention this report from the Citizen Lab in Canada that looked at how WeChat is using the data from its international users to feed their recommendation and censorship algorithms for the Chinese user base. And they set up this experiments where they pretty much showed that yes, WeChat is performing content monitoring for the international users. It scans documents and images for potential content that should be censored, and then train their internal algorithms to use this data for the censorship in China. The report also include like looking at policies and try to reach out to Tencent to get to the bottom of this, but yeah, it's still very murky what's going on. And yeah, with that, I think I'm ready for questions and looking forward to discussing details afterwards at the panel discussion.
Nice, thank you so much. Must be quite frustrating for you as a researcher that you try to research like this mobile security, but it's difficult to gain trustful information from these companies.
This is one thing. Like we also tried to run experiments from within China. We also had Chinese collaborators, but then it's also you don't want to really put them into a bad light, or they would have been willing collaborators, but you have to be careful.
Yeah. I got an audience question, but it's a very long question, so I'm just gonna read it aloud and read it together with you. It's from Thornwald. He's saying in the chat, I was wondering, could you talk a little on the intermingling between companies like TikTok and the CCP? This week we learned about UI facial detection programs that are used by the CCP to target certain minorities. To me, it seems like a very powerful symbiosis between Chinese tech and the party. The party supports the development of the technical innovation, and they make sure to facilitate the CCP with innovations that not only stretch their power domestically, but also internationally. Perhaps my question would be, do you think TikTok is weaponizing China like, say, the way Lockheed Martin traditionally weaponized the USA?
Honestly,
that's a long question.
I'm a computer scientist. I don't know, actually. Probably. The only thing what I can say is if you look at the privacy policies of those apps, they sometimes even state that they're sharing or have to share data with the Chinese government. And
what do you mean with these apps? Like apps, all social media apps of TikTok?
In general, Chinese social media apps.
I am.
But I think they're also pretty tightly controlled by the Chinese government, probably. So yeah, there's definitely some intermingling going on, but I'm not sure how much of this is happening internationally. I can just say it reminds me we're focusing on China here, but there's also law enforcement in other countries in the US is pretty much buying and getting data from mobile apps and advertisers, for example, on the location, tracking the location of users, and probably also face databases. Who knows? Like,
Yeah. And in your presentation, you said that actually TikTok is having less trackers now and less, yes, reducing its, it's becoming more safe.
they at least removed the Chinese advertisement trackers, the Alibaba ones.
Ah, yeah. Do you think that's a reaction on this attempt of Trump to ban the app in the United States, or was it after that announcement, or was it?
It was actually before that, but they
Okay.
have been getting some attention for a while, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But it's also the question how much Chinese advertisers benefit from directly being embedded in the app.
Do you think we should be more concerned since it's a Chinese company?
Yes and no. I echo the sentiment that it's actually good to have more competition, and we should already be pretty concerned by the other. Why should we trust Facebook or Google anymore with our data? Like, or at least they have shown that they haven't really earned our trust.
Yeah. Then a question that follows a bit on that, like how to deal with it. Some people say if you don't like to give up your privacy, then don't use app X. But sometimes this is not realistic because all your friends and classmates are on app X. Do you have any tips except just convince your friends to move to app I?
I mean, that's a good start. I'm struggling with this as well.
Yeah, it's difficult.
It's also luckily, to a certain degree, we're getting more control. It's not necessarily that usable, but you can at least turn off a lot of permission requests for the apps.
Yeah.
The thing also is like, as Matthew mentioned, those shadow profiles, that's not only something that TikTok is doing, that's also something that Facebook has been doing for years. So even if you're not on the specific app, but your friends are, it's also likely that those apps already have information about you from your friends' contacts, books, and so on.
Yeah, and it's a bit difficult that it's so untransparent, right? There were some more questions, but I leave them for the panel talk too. I think we learned a lot again. So thanks for your talk, Martina. And then we move over to a short break again and see you later. Feel free also to order one of our virtual drinks via our donation button if you want to support us continue making programs like this. And we will be happy if you answer the questions that we show in the stream in a bit. So see you later. Hi, welcome back. I just got a message from Margarita that frog talk are one of your favorite TikTok trends. Besides that, makeup tutorials. So that's nice to know and learn about you. Yeah, I'm here together with our next speaker who knows TikTok both from an observing and from a maker perspective, Sophia Smith-Galer. Sophia is a journalist and filmmaker from the UK who is using TikTok as a storytelling tool. She plays with the platform to promote her journalistic work. She's working for BCC World Service, as well as her love for languages. She also used the tool for news gathering and publishing for her documentary, The TikTok Election. A documentary on the influence of TikTok and the 2020 US elections. If you haven't heard or seen this documentary yet, check it out. Margarita will share a link in the chat again. We're very happy that she's joining us tonight and with a talk about the societal impact of TikTok. Hi, Sophia.
Hello.
Hey. Let's first watch your favorite TikTok video. Can you tell a bit more about this one? Why?
So that's a content creator here in the UK who intended to hold a DJ set to the BBC News theme tune. And the reason that was relevant is because here in the UK, every day at about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, Boris Johnson would deliver a news presser about coronavirus. And in March, April, when the pandemic first began, people were watching that presser all the time, getting millions of views. And people would be there waiting for the BBC theme to start to know that the presser was about to begin. So what happened was I found that video on TikTok when it had a couple of 100,000 views, which on TikTok is good, but I mean, videos can get 50 million views. They can get thousands of views. So I tweeted it, and it blew up on Twitter. And it ended up becoming a news story in its own right because TikTok then took all the excitement that came out of that video, and they actually made it into a trend which they promoted on the Discover page, hashtag another news. So it was one video started a sort of mass love-in for the BBC News theme tune, and obviously as a BBC journalist, it was nice to enjoy.
Of the spread as well.
Yeah.
Nice. If you're ready, we can start with your presentation.
Brilliant. Okay, here we go.
Yay.
So I'm here to talk to you about the culture and impact that TikTok is having on a sort of society level. I am not a tech journalist. I am not I'm certainly not a computer scientist. I have no tech background. My background really is in social media production for news publishers. So I have been a social media producer for the BBC, and then in my current role, I am a video journalist where I make digital video for the BBC website and for BBC social media channels. So that's my day job. But about me, journalism isn't the only thing that I do. Back in November 2019, I got on TikTok because as a video journalist, I thought, hey, there's this new app on the scene. I don't know if my employer will ever go on it or not, but I better learn how to edit for it. So I started on there just as just experimenting. I never intended on making a TikTok, but I realized I wouldn't be able to work out how it works until I did actually make one. I made one, it was my first TikTok, and it got 250,000 views, and I got 4,000 followers in the first day. TikTok does prioritize your first video, deliberately so, because that serotonin hit of, oh my goodness, I've gone viral, makes you want to make more and more TikToks. So here I am today. I was 152 this morning, and I think it's already 152.1 or 0.2 maybe. I go up by a few hundred a day at this rate. And that's if I have no new videos out as well. It's mind-blowing. I was selected as one of the TikTok 2020 top 100 creators in the UK. I was listed in the Voice of Change category. And my videos have received 3.3 million likes. I would caveat that by saying, when you look at people on TikTok, I would look at their ratio of followers to likes. So to blow my own trumpet, that follower to like ratio is really, really good. But there will be some people, particularly perhaps celebrities who've gone on the platform, who people follow because they know them, rather than they make high quality TikToks, will have, you know, a far lower ratio of likes to follow account. And that's a good way, a good marker to see how well somebody's performing on TikTok, as well as just looking at the view count of their videos. What do I do on TikTok? It's a bit of a mix. I kind of divide my time between how I use it in a personal capacity, because at the end of the day, this isn't an official account tied to my employer. It's me creating content for myself, which means some of it is about my life and some of it is about my work. And I do a mix of talking about anything from languages and music, which play an important part of my personal life, to my journalism. I'm actually a religion reporter, but because of my time spent on TikTok, I've actually spent the year documenting a number of TikTok-specific investigations too, especially when it hit the news agenda because a certain president wanted to ban it. So obviously I was in demand then. But this was really nice. This little paragraph that you can see that I've put there was actually me being mentioned in the House of Lords in Parliament. Charlie Beckett is an excellent journalism innovator professor, and he cited my work, which was really fun. And I brought myself up because I am a bit of a case study in that I was doing journalism before I went on TikTok. I was doing a little bit of on-camera stuff, not loads. I've done far more really since I've been on TikTok, but I had like a couple of thousand followers on Twitter and Instagram. And that was that. I'm certainly not like a known BBC name or anything. I'm right at the earliest stages of my career. I now get recognised in the street in London probably twice a month. I got recognised when back in February, I did some reporting in America, and I was on the New York subway, and a girl went up to me and said, "Are you the girl who speaks Arabic on TikTok?" And I mention that because I don't know of anyone else experiencing anything like that in the past few years from social media other than TikTok. And when I've spoken to other creators who've not been, they've not seen this kind of stratospheric rise from their Instagram or their Twitter, but from TikTok and from the way that the algorithm has essentially launched them into internet fame, people get to know you so well that they will recognize you in the street, which blows my mind. These are a couple of the stories that I did earlier in the year regarding TikTok. That's the news theme story that you can see, which I mentioned earlier. I also covered Virtual Pride, which was a LGBT plus movement that was started by some very savvy teenagers because they couldn't celebrate actual Pride because obviously it's normally parades in the street and they can happen because of COVID. I also was responsible for taking down a really horrendous trend that was going viral on TikTok. And something that we've touched on slightly this evening is that the algorithm is different to what it was earlier this year. But earlier this year and at the end of 2019, there were some really alarming things turning up in the algorithm sometimes. And as a user who's on there every day, I can see and get a sense that the platform's kind of cleaned itself up a little, but I do have to emphasize that things like this, a clearly colorist trend, were going viral. And to this day, I'm in the middle of speaking to a bunch of Jewish content creators, for example, who have raised concerns with me about videos they've seen. So there are always these constant stories of, I know it's doing a bad job, is it doing a good enough job? People say. These are just a couple of things from the TikTok documentary that I did. It was for radio and television, and I'm the first journalist to use TikTok as a news gathering tool. So what you can see in the top left is me using the duet feature to Vox Pop, a familiar radio TV way where you sort of interview members of the public for their opinion. That video there, that has 150,000 views. That is me doing a kind of rap to help share some of the things I found out in my documentary that got lots of younger listeners to listen. And down there, even though it's rehashed, that is Donald Trump Jr. sharing my journalism. Annoyingly, not from the BBC, but from someone who's clearly copied the BBC article. That's fun that he retweeted my stuff. What has TikTok changed? For me, it's reach, and I divide it into these sections. So I would say that just like how I was describing before about sort of the heady heights of fame that you can reach with TikTok that simply aren't as feasible in such a short period of time on the other social media platforms that we have to play around with, have helped people in a variety of industries. Activism is a huge one. TikTok played, historians will come to describe, as they have described Syria, the Syrian conflict as the first YouTube war, as they've come to describe the Arab Spring as being sort of Facebook protests, they will come to look at Black Lives Matter as being immensely aided by TikTok. Part of that is down to the fact that TikTok promoted Black Lives Matter as a trend in June, shortly after the murder of George Floyd. To date, I've had minimum 9 billion views, which is extremely high numbers for TikTok in terms of the number of people who've watched videos associated with the hashtag. As I cover in my election documentary, political activism on TikTok makes such an impact. It can impact things in real life. We do know that Gen Z turned out more than ever to vote in this election. Again, history will tell us how much TikTok was responsible for that or not. But we do know that mass social media mobilization, for example, in the Tulsa rally, we know that that was influenced by TikTok users. And that was a Donald Trump re-election rally whose optics were very badly hit by it. Celebrity, as I've described, I was not famous before TikTok, and I now am a weird kind of famous. There are plenty of other people who've gotten far more famous than I have. They have millions of followers, and they are literally just quite ordinary people. They're ordinary people who tend to have a talent, and that talent doesn't necessarily mean that you are a fabulous gymnast. It could mean that you're just very personable and very relatable, and you know how to entertain people and give people information that they want to hear. Music that you hear now is in the charts, is on TikTok, to the extent that you hear a song and you think, oh, that's a TikTok song, and no, it's a genuine pop song. In the media, we've seen people like Dave in Washington Post do really fun TikToks as well that have helped extend the reach towards younger audiences through media publication and education. TikTok has pumped a lot of money into Learn on TikTok, and we're just going to keep seeing that as time goes by. We're going to keep seeing TikTok elevate creators who educate and inform. Like we heard earlier, the investment China clearly has in education apps. TikTok is heavily part of that. I just wanted to touch briefly on internet culture. I think lots of people say, oh, well, didn't Vine do this? And oh, well, didn't YouTube do this? We haven't yet had an app that has put a mobile app, so not desktop-led like YouTube is, a mobile app that not only prioritizes micro-entertainment, but sends it as viral and to as many eyeballs as TikTok has. And as a result, there really is a new era of participatory social media with people getting on board with trends and wanting to do these sort of mass social actions that are primed more on values and identity rather than simply who it is you follow and who your friends and family are. It's really about communities, niche communities. We're still going to see memes because the Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit still love, but we are seeing rise in the audio and video meme. And personally, I think there's going to be a natural evolution of speak to camera posting culture. There will be fewer people hiding behind screens, hiding behind keyboards, which optimistically I like to think will lead to less kind of nastiness online, because you can't, you know, self-expression is going to become synonymous with posting. And I do see a world where the more content creators we have, which is what TikTok is trying to encourage, the more people who won't simply be, you know, anonymous ducks and beavers or whatever you get on Google Docs and, you know, Twitter eggs and Reddit robots. We're going to start seeing more people's faces, I hope, at least. Am I out of time? Am I going? I think.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
What did I say is coming next? I think I've already touched on these. I just want to leave off.
Okay.
I just want to leave off by saying that we all had grand hopes of Facebook. We all had grand hopes of Instagram, grand hopes of Twitter, and increasingly we get infuriated by how these news feeds want to prioritize us buying things from them. TikTok is not there yet. I think pessimistically it will go that way, but for now, it's a beautiful place to be, occasionally problematic, but it's certainly makes me have more faith in the internet than fear of it. That's not what I thought at the beginning of this year, but it is what I think now. And if you're not already on there, time is running out, because it's not going to be this kind of halcyon era for much longer.
That was great. Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot for your presentation. I actually share your opinion about your feeling on TikTok. Like when I opened the app 2 years ago for the first time, I think it was like a different world opened for me. Like I was so used to, apparently that was my filter bubble, to see the same kind of things on apps like Facebook and Instagram. And I see very different stuff on TikTok. It changed a bit actually, but especially in the beginning, it was very like opening up my eyes to see what's going on there. So I immediately start with some questions we got from the audience. Nauska was asking, was wondering how you do research on TikTok. Do you use tools or code for it?
That's a really good question. And I've had conversations, because of the nature of some of the investigations that I've done, I've spoken to kind of people who do use third-party tools. For example, the Institute of Strategic Dialogue, I've spoken to for a couple of stories I've done. Everyone will tell you, me and them, it is very difficult to research TikTok because of the app's infrastructure. Third-party tools don't really tend to give you much insight. To be honest, all of the research that I do on TikTok is manual. So it's time-consuming. A way I kind of get around that is I really like to think of my journalism and investigations as very participatory, and that I involve people who follow me in it. So if it's something about TikTok in particular, I will literally just put my phone up and I'll do a TikTok live, and I will ask followers directly, people have been saying there are videos about this, have you seen any? And people will send me content. I do the same with my Instagram. But other than that, when I do individual research myself, it's very much going through hashtags and videos. And gratefully, the way that the TikTok algorithm works is that the minute you start looking for a certain kind of content, they will feed you that content on the For You page. So already an investigation that I'm doing today, I was looking up a couple of videos, and because I was obviously dwelling on the accounts of certain creators, For You page started doing half of the journalism for me.
Great, that's nice. And it's also nice to hear that actually the way you do your research is also a bit community-based, which is very suiting the app, actually. We got another question from Rox. She asks, could you elaborate on the changes in the algorithm and why you consider them alarming?
So I don't know if you mean the changes now or changes from before. So I'll speak to both. I think earlier in the year, I was seeing like really super weird videos that kind of, I was obviously one of the first viewers that the algorithm was throwing the video out to. So the TikTok algorithm works that it feeds the video to 100 sort of random users. And then depending on how they engage with the video, it will then send it out to more and more and more. And so occasionally you are one of those first 100 users. By occasionally, you're on my For You pages. I feel like it's at least 1 or 2 out of every 10 videos, I'm one of those viewers. And sometimes the videos that used to come up on it would be really odd. I would occasionally see nudity. I would occasionally just see something that wasn't funny or entertaining at all. And obviously I assume that video would then die a death on the algorithm and probably no one else would see it. And there just were more trends that were clearly offensive. And because of the changes to community guidelines, the scrutiny TikTok has received, if you go through all their press releases from the last year, it's them cleaning up their act. It's them improving moderation and all their guideline strategies, which is why, as a user, I find it a better place to be than I did in previous months. But what I fear is going to happen as more and more people get on it, as more and more people see the marketing potential of TikTok, this algorithm that helps transport you to the community you never even realized you always longed to be a part of, which is what the app makes you feel like, might start being infected by all these ads all the time and all these, sponsored videos or partnered videos, which is how I feel my Instagram feed has become. I used to spend a lot more time on Instagram than I do now. So those were the changes I would cite in the algorithm.
Yeah. Another question from Bauke. How common are niche bubbles with, for example, white nationalists or jihadists on TikTok? How, if at all, are these visible and moderated?
So I know that my colleagues, jihadists on TikTok were one of the earliest stories that came out of TikTok. I think I'm talking like 2018, 2019, a long time ago. Since then, I've not really seen or heard anything. And in terms of the alt-right, as it were, I know that there was a story regarding Boogaloo during the election, which I believe some colleagues of mine might have covered. But you'll find that the way that TikTok moderation works is that a lot of videos are automatically taken down, often wrongfully so, as well as rightfully so. And I imagine on videos that use those kind of hashtags, unless the community create a new hashtag and try and get around these rules, which they do all the time, a lot of videos actually never see the light of day because they immediately meet these thresholds that TikTok just removes them. But I can't say that any of this kind of content comes up on my feed.
The thing I was wondering about myself is this week, or maybe it was last week, but recently the Dutch Green Party joined TikTok. And in their first video, the party leader was doing a funny TikTok dance on this famous TikTok song. And personally, I think it's a bit of a shame that the serious political party posts such jolly videos and thus conforms to the content that is mainly made on TikTok. I think it's not really necessary to just post funny videos, especially not if you're a political party. And I would rather see him making a snappy political statement of something that I can learn from, or that is a bit like addressing their content in a TikTok way, but not doing a dance. How do you think about this? And do you think that it is important to be performative in your videos in order to be successful on TikTok?
So what I imagine probably happened there is that politician received poor TikTok consulting, or, and this is a reality, some, especially young people, consume that content a lot, and therefore that's all they see really on their For You pages, with a little variety. And what that means is that that's why so many people, like above the age of, I'd even say 30, think that TikTok is all about lip syncs and dancing, because they only see TikTok through the eyes of their children. And that doesn't mean to say that there aren't plenty of children also watching really, great content, like informative, educational content on TikTok. But a lot of those like dances are what go viral and become trends in school classrooms. It's what people look at. And what's probably happened there is the politician hasn't really done, or rather their team, as is often the case, hasn't done their research into the political niche where that politician would flourish in and go viral in, like the activism space, the climate change movement. The fighting climate change movement on TikTok is enormous, and it's a misstep to not try and target it. The best dances in this respect are when people dance and in the background they've also got text with something really, really important. And it's obvious that the dance is a maneuver to get you to see the really, really important information, and that people share it as a result. This is something I see in the activism space all the time.
Because are these dances pushed by the algorithm?
Yes, but it's not only. We shouldn't only think of it as that. Why? You should be thinking, why is the algorithm pushing this video? And I can tell you, from someone who has to make video for news publishers, someone makes a decision to watch. So imagine you're on TikTok right now. You've got your phone. Your thumb, your thumb is hovering over. I've started describing things when I see them as thumb stopping. Because if you're watching something and you see something and you're like, whoa, that's interesting, your thumb will stop scrolling for a bit for you to watch the video. You make that decision in almost microseconds. And the thing about a dance is that it's quick maneuvers, it catches the eye. Obviously, if you are young and attractive, that helps too. And that's something that a lot of people have moaned about the algorithm, but it's all, unfortunately a reality that people stick around and watch people who look like that. And that glues eyes onto screens and people watch it. So we need to be really careful when we say the algorithm pushes it, because the algorithm pushes what people engage with. So actually it's the humans that are pushing it.
Interesting. My final question then is, what was your first video that you posted on TikTok? You described it in your presentation that it went viral, but what was it about?
It was, there was a trend at the time, an audio meme. So people were using the sound, and it was someone going, yes, no, yes, no. And me and a colleague of mine were like, let's make a TikTok. So she helped me film it. So the bits where you see me and what she filmed. And I managed to get members of my team involved. It was like, does the BBC World Service know how to use TikTok, was how it started. And then my colleagues would react to TikTok with like different things, like, oh, you mean like the clock? And I was like, no. Oh, you mean like the Kesha song? No. And then in one bit, like my mate Tristan like shakes Tic Tac box, and he's like, oh, you mean Tic Tacs? And I'm like, no. And that's it. So really, really basic. It was literally an idea that I just had like that, because I wanted to work out how to edit and film in app. So I never made it for anyone other really than BBC colleagues who would find it funny. It was never really intended for like an audience beyond my team. But people liked it.
Yeah, nice. Thank you so much for your insight, Sophia. It was very interesting. And it's time to invite the other two speakers again to the stream, so we can continue for a little panel talk. If you in the audience have questions for all of them, write them down in the chat. Also, Margarita told me that some of you made some donations, which is very kind of you. So thank you for that. I will kick off with a question myself. We have been talking about Facebook launching these TikTok clones. They successfully copied the Snapchat with their story format. And yesterday, via our Instagram stories, actually, we've asked our followers if they think that Facebook can do this Snapchat trick again. So if they can make a successful TikTok copy that slows down the growth of TikTok. And 60% of our audience thinks they can't. And I was curious to your opinion about this. Maybe we can start with Matthew.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think they will be able to do much. What we learned in the China market was is basically everything that happened in China is playing out the same in America, except 18 months later. So 2 years ago in China, everyone tried to copy Douyin, and Tencent, which we could say is the equivalent of Facebook in this scenario, spent considerable, don't know exactly how much they spent, but it was a lot of money. They put hundreds of people on it. They drove all their traffic to it. They did far more than Facebook's done to date, actually. They were very aggressive, and they couldn't copy it. It's actually very easy to clone TikTok. It's very difficult to surpass it once it's got a certain amount of mind share, and it's got a community, and it's got traction in the market. So I've no doubt that Reels, they do seem to be quite serious about Reels. I haven't used it myself, so I'm a little bit hesitant to talk about the user experience, but they're very committed to it. That's quite obvious. They've redone the homepage. That's actually a huge deal. They wouldn't do that unless this was very important. They're very scared. It's because TikTok is disrupting their business and will continue to do so. But I don't expect it to succeed in terms of becoming bigger than TikTok. It will take a small market share. It will be in the market and people will use it. But it will be second fiddle to TikTok. I don't see anything that's made me think otherwise since it's been launched. So we'll have to see, though. I could be wrong.
I would say that it's yet to foster its own culture of posting, and there is no trends functionality really yet, certainly not in the way that TikTok has it. So for content ideation, TikTok's been described as color by numbers. You can walk into TikTok without any content ideas for how to make a video. You go on the Discover page and you find all these ideas that you can do. Instagram doesn't quite work in the same way. And as a result, it's really hard for people who are not yet content creators or influencers to make things. Whereas that's where TikTok's done really well. It's turned people who've never really posted anything other than the odd Instagram brunch photo or tweet about a film that they really like. It's turned them into video makers.
But maybe that also becomes more difficult when there are more TikTok influencers and big TikTok stars. Or do you think?
Possibly, but to be honest, that's how I think all social media will always work in that kind of pyramid, because exactly the same thing has happened with Instagram. There are these influencers that have millions of followers, and unless something else happens to them in their lives, like such as a television appearance or something like that, Netflix show, you cannot hope from the algorithm alone, the newsfeed alone, to ever reach the heights that they have. You were either there at the time that people were going viral, or you missed out.
Do you want to react on it, Martina?
I don't necessarily know if they want to surpass TikTok in a way that it makes sense that they have or they include a new feature in their platform. But so I don't know what the Facebook library in the TikTok app is doing, but just that they're intermingling with TikTok, and there's also the option to kind of I think connect your account with TikTok. I think they are probably also pretty happy with where TikTok is, and yeah.
Is it good that there is a competitor for Facebook, privacy-wise? That there's not this big social media platform, that there are more social platforms besides TikTok?
Yes. And
yeah, it's
yeah,
difficult to say one thing.
The thing is, the issue is not only the social media platforms, like also this monoculture that if you buy a smartphone, you pretty much decide between Apple and Google. We're living in interesting times where 5, 6, 7, I don't know, a handful of big companies are controlling the whole internet pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. We got a funny question from Hey. When will the panelists predict everyone's parents are going to dominate TikTok so it's no longer cool? He has a comment on that. He said, true story, my mom actually recommended a really funny TikTok video to me. Does that happen already to you?
For me, I can only say I'm not on TikTok yet, so I will probably start now, and my mom will be on it then probably 2 years later, from what I've learned from WhatsApp. Like we had this discussion before. After WhatsApp was kind of cool or used by people, my mom and my relatives discovered it, and they're pretty much the main reason why I'm still using it.
Yeah. Matthew, is it in China already the case that Douyin is used by a lot of old people?
Yeah, absolutely. I was laughing a little bit when I heard that question, because I think it's already like that in China now. It's completely mainstream app, and it's not considered cool anymore. It's a platform. I just give you a personal anecdote to bring it home. My mother-in-law uses the Chinese version of TikTok, and she doesn't just watch it; she creates videos on a daily basis. Very boring videos, actually, but
what kind of
for
videos,
her, just her like lip syncing to songs, and just doing some filters. They're all the filters, right? There's just daily, they're just churning out so many different filters. So she always uses filters that make her look completely different. That actually really surprised me when I saw it first, about half a year ago now. But it's got to that level where seniors are using. Like I say, they're not just using it; they're actually creating videos on it on a daily basis. I don't think my mother-in-law is anything special. I think it's very typical that behavior is happening. So yeah, that's. I expect it will become like that globally in many different markets. Yeah.
Certainly, from a user perspective, I see all age groups on there all the time, and I feel like the people who think it's just an app for young people show their age when they come out with a comment like that.
Yeah.
I saw an excellent tweet that said, you've probably heard, because of all the news stories that came out because of TikTok, boomer, the kind of ageist remark, boomer, then there came zoomer. I don't know if the phrase is familiar to you. Someone said, boomer does not define an age demographic or age group. Boomer is a mindset. And for a lot of people, the people who are kind of very like oh, TikTok is all lip sync and dancing. Oh, isn't it just young people? Oh, it's not. If I go on there, everyone's going to think I'm old and uncool. Not remotely true. And everyone who's been super savvy early on has realized that as long as you've got good content and it's kind of identity first, which defies age boundaries and barriers, if you have an important story to tell, find a lot of success on TikTok. And I assure you that there are plenty of people under 20 who have no idea how to use the app or go viral on the app.
I have another a nice question that ties a bit into that, and I think maybe you could have a right answer to that, Sophia. It's from Marike, who also made a contribution to our online dossier. She says, I would like to make journalism TikToks, but because I started making videos about my hamsters, I'm stuck in the hamster niche on TikTok. How do I get out of my niche?
That's excellent. First, I would assess your account and think, I mean, if you've got 1 million followers with your hamster, that's one thing. If you've got like 1,000 followers with your hamster, it is redeemable. You can change your account. Also, perhaps think about how the hamster can be used for journalism.
Hamster stories.
You'll find, someone has really smartly created a series of recipe videos using their ferret. And you might think, what on earth? But I don't really watch recipe videos on TikTok, and yet I've watched these recipe videos with the ferret. So you aren't, and I've learned things about how to cook from, and I think that you could be probably quite clever with the hamster in sharing journalism, or even if it's sort of like you having a conversation with your hamster, because a lot of TikTok trends revolve around conversing with yourself, imitating other characters, and it may well be that the hamster can become a recurring character in your TikToks.
I'm looking forward to that. A question maybe for you, Martina. Is TikTok ever used for cybercrime attacks? It's a question from 040.
If the question is, has it ever been used? I'm not really aware of it.
Yeah, it is. That's a question. Like how WhatsApp is used for phishing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's at the stage yet that it's abused with things like phishing. I guess because you mentioned trending topics, one thing that I could imagine it being abused for, so there was the thing that Twitter trending topics were used for pretty much communication between cyber criminals and their bots, and they could use TikTok the same way. Like with every popular platform, I think cyber criminals find a way to use it because they can blend in with regular traffic and regular users.
Yeah. Right. We're heading a bit to the end of our event, and I actually want to finish with one question I have myself, because Sophia, in your presentation, you were saying that you were a bit worried that TikTok is heading to being a more commercial platform with a lot of advertisements. That's how you experience Instagram at the moment. And I was wondering if you, Matthew, can say how it is in China right now. You already told us during your presentation a bit that indeed Douyin is way more commercial. But is it similar to Instagram, or is there still is there still some funny niche things to find on TikTok besides these commercial content?
Yeah, so in terms of ad inventory on Douyin, it's okay. I mean, as I'm just thinking as a user, I find it bearable. I'm quite surprised at the amount of inventory on and Instagram and Facebook. I find that degrades the user experience quite considerably. But on TikTok, advertisers need to work out how to do advertisement on TikTok well, which tends to skew towards user-generated content style. The adverts that tend to work best on TikTok are adverts that look like normal TikTok videos and are done in a sort of very sort of way that looks doesn't, it's quite cheap, right? It looks like something that you can have a big brand that makes something that looks like as a video that anyone could have made, but actually that's the most effective way to make it. So those type of adverts, if done well, can be quite fun and quite interesting. Due to the way it works with the swipe up motion, that's also pretty nice because you can just skip them quite easily, and it doesn't tend to be that annoying. But it was roughly in China, it's about one. It used to be quite standardized. Now they've changed it. I expect it would follow something quite similar in the West, where it's like an advert. You have your splash screen advert, then the fifth video is an advert, and then it's every 5 minutes they show you an advert. Is the system they used to use. So that's what you can roughly expect. In Southeast Asian markets, it's also of a similar level. So it's not that bad, I think.
Yeah, 5 minutes seems
roughly. Yeah.
You can scroll through a lot of TikTok videos. Then you want to react?
I just want to chime in and say that, especially regarding the kind of ads you said that do well, what I've noticed on TikTok is that a number of the content creators that brands have decided to partner with to create those ads, like you say, that look like normal videos they've made, a lot of them do not tend to be the hyper real, millennial pink, super photoshopped Instagram models that we're so used to seeing being the face of these ads. Certainly in the UK, I'm seeing the ordinary, funny creators who've gone viral because you'd love to hang out with them. And they would not be an Instagram model, but they've gone viral for other reasons, and they are being selected for ads. And I think that's telling, and it's a good thing, because they're normal people. They're not like these kind of fantasy people that were so used to
we're
seeing
changing the Instagram aesthetic is slowly, it's changing it a bit more realistic aesthetic, probably. All right, I think we leave it there. We've come to the end of the program. It was super nice to talk with you together about TikTok. TikTok already was one of my fascinations, and my curiosity only has increased. So, and hopefully you, our audience, learned a lot about TikTok too. I think because we got a lot of questions, you did. Thanks, Sophia, Martina, and Matthew for your interesting insights. Thanks to our viewers for your support and your questions in the chat. It was great that you virtually attend our last focus event of the year. It has been a crazy year for us, translating most of our events to the internet, but we also had a lot of fun with it. Our events are made possible by the Amsterdam's Fonds voor de Kunst en het Stimuleringsfonds. And we are happy to announce that we got the support from its Stimuleringsfonds to continue with our program in 2021 as well. And there are great things coming up. So if you want to stay updated, you can subscribe yourself to our newsletter. You can also join our Telegram channel, where we filter the internet for you. Every 2 weeks, we'll send you a list of links that we recommend to read or to check out. Although it looks like I'm wrapping up now, the event is not completely finished yet. As I told you in the beginning, we miss chatting with you at the bar and reflecting on the event, also together with the speakers. And we can imagine that it's nice for you to meet each other, or to ask that question that I couldn't ask them So that's why we've built our own online environment where that's possible. It's an environment made with Oye, which is a new platform where you can create online rooms. It's very cool. You can make up your own online room, which is, I think, was missing in the online world up till now. And we're very happy testers of the platform. So if you have a remaining question for Matthew, Sophia, or Martina, you can come to our online ballroom. Margarita will share the link in the chat, and we will hang out there for a few more minutes until 10. When you open the link, you can see that we also opened our own bar called the Pixel Bar. You can have a dance there on one of the TikTok hits if you want. Good to know is that both rooms are free for you to use also after this event. So if you want to meet with your friends in the Pixel Bar tomorrow, because the normal bars are closed, that's possible. All right, that's it. Have a nice and, most important, healthy end of the year. And for now, have a nice evening and hope to see you in the ballroom. Thank you and bye-bye.